I'm a nobody from nowhere that ain't never done nothing. That's what I am. An old head. These young coaches, I tell you what, I can't figure these jokers out. They got a backpack on and tight something. I don't know what they're doing. They're getting on my nerves, I can tell you that. I know what ain't in the backpack. A string and a let me paint that line for you. That ain't in there. That's for sure. I had a kid the other day. He said, "Hey, coach, didn't Christopher Columbus write the Pledge of Allegiance?" I said he sure did. He also played quarterback for the 1985 Chicago Bears. He said, bet. That happened. Sun Coaches, Season 6, where coaches come and tell their stories. Some of them are funny. Some of them is going to help you in your coaching journey. Not everybody has a funny story, but everybody has a story. Hope you enjoy Sun Coaches, brought to you by Titan Sensor. Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sensor for Season 6 and 7. Titan is made in the USA, proudly founded and based in Texas. When you connect with Titan, you are not alone. You can collaborate and share templates with other coaches across the country to build reports and foster competition. Used by programs such as State 6A Georgia State champion Grayson High School, Titan can tailor a package to fit your needs. The eye in the sky never lies. Improve your team's performance with Titan. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 6, and today I'm very excited to be joined by the head coach at Camden County, Coach Travis Roland. Thanks for being on with me.
Yes, sir, Coach. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Looking forward to having a good conversation with you.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, you came up from Florida, I know. Is Florida your home state? Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, I keep making the joke, man. This is like going off to college because I spent my whole, obviously high school in Daytona Beach, and then accepted a scholarship to play at Bethune-Cookman, where I was a 3-year captain, and then played some arena ball for about 3 months after graduation in 09. Came back and played some more arena ball the next year, got cut, and I was out in Arizona for maybe 2 months, got cut and came back, and I've been, in Daytona my whole life until this year. So, this is kind of my going away to college experience, so to speak, a little bit.
So you grew up in Daytona. Where'd you go to high school in Daytona?
Mainland High School is my alma mater. One of the captains of our state championship team back in 03, which was the first one in our county's history. And so, like I said, blessed to be a safety and a linebacker there, all-state player, and play with some great guys, phenomenal players that went on to play a bunch of Division I football, some of them. And I played 1AA, so, we had phenomenal teams while I was there. And, was blessed to sign a scholarship and go to Bethune.
Well, I know when I met a bunch of guys down at the Coach of the Year clinics the last few years in Florida, I know you guys don't just play football. You play other sports as well. What all else did you do in high school?
Well, my dad, just like many others, it doesn't happen anymore. My dad didn't play about playing sports. So my dad had me football when it was football season, basketball when it was basketball season, and baseball when it was baseball season. So I played all three in high school. Blessed to win Athlete of the Year, shockingly enough, when I was in high school, because I was a 3-year starter for baseball and football, and then a 2-year starter in basketball. So I was there for defensive purposes, get assists and get some rebounds, but definitely still was able to, have a good career in all three, and was blessed to be Athlete of the Year as a senior for Volusia and Flagler counties.
Well, that's awesome. So you went to Bethune and played football.
Yes, sir. Went there, played for the great Alvin Shine Wyatt. A guy that I give a lot of credit to in my ability to just be tough-minded and physically tough. I think, he's done a great job in raising up a bunch of future coaches, a bunch of guys I play with, coaching football now and that kind of thing. And so, started for him for 3 years, was a captain for 3 years. I played every position throughout my college career outside of nose guard on defense, lined up at all the other 10 at some point in my career. Finished 7th all-time in tackles and 5th all-time in sacks. I think I'm now bumped down to 7th, but nonetheless had a great career there. Was blessed to play for him and play at Bethune. I tell people all the time, I found out who I was You're proud to be a young black man, at HBCU. And I found that at Bethune, learning about our founder, Dr. Bethune, and those kind of things. So just I wouldn't have traded it in for nothing in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of my best friends when I first started coaching, Kevius Preston, he played baseball at Bethune, and
Okay.
he went on to play in the Cubs organization, and he used to speak very fondly of his time at Bethune and
Yep.
kept up with them. And then when they started, about 5 years ago, when they'd have the college preseason, they would match up HBCUs against some of the tournaments they would have, and Bethune was always in them. And
Yep.
I just remember that they've always had definitely a strong baseball program there, and most people just nobody there wasn't much attention brought to them until Prime, was it Jack State, as far as the lack of funding and facilities and things like that, and the struggles that you guys had to go through, and you didn't get exactly the same experience, the same 1AA experience that some programs, especially these days, have.
I think that's what I'm talking about. I think the TV time was there, the equipment type stuff was there, but I think the thing Coach Prime did was just kind of him and honestly, the guy that was the first to sound the alarm was Eddie George, with some of the land grant act stuff that he was able to do, where some HBCUs that were state schools weren't getting the same funding as the PWIs in their states. And Eddie George brought attention to that, and that's why you've seen some of these schools start to have much better facilities, because the state money that's there that they should have access to is now being offered to them. And so I think that's been a big deal here as of late in making sure, because there is quality ball in HBC on the HBCU level. I think what happened was that it was kind of thrown to the wayside, and honestly thankful to Coach Prime for kind of starting to talk about it and bring attention to it. And you always need someone to be the trailblazer for a movement, and I think the movement he did a good job of getting the movement going and getting the conversation started. And now kids were realizing they can go to HBCUs and have success and even achieve the ultimate dream of going to the NFL if they're blessed to do that.
And obviously you had that dream. You said you got to play some arena ball, and it's kind of like back then it's kind of like the minor leagues for the NFL.
Yep, sure was.
And so when you were in school, did you know you were going to teach and coach, or were you just like, all right, I'm going to go play pro ball?
No, so I always wanted to give it a try, and see what I could do. Also, I had a really good career. Had a couple private workouts. Steelers and Patriots, were the two. So I always made a joke. I knew I could play football if I had those two organizations giving me a private workout on the campus or whatever. But I think, one of the biggest things for me was my mom's a career educator. My grandmother's a career educator. One of my aunts is a career educator, my uncle. So we come from a family of educators. And I knew I wanted to be around football. And so the impact that coaching had on my life, my dad has run the Pop Warner system in Daytona now for the last 20 or 25 years. He's run it for us. So coaching kids has always been a part of, who I am. And I kind of knew right away if football didn't work out, I was going to jump into education. And I was, when you play arena ball, your eyes get open. I didn't want to be one of those 30-something-year-old dudes chasing the dream of going to the NFL and you're playing arena ball. Like, dude, the chances are you're not going. You know what I mean? So once I got cut, I was out there in Arizona by myself. It was the first time I had been cut since I was 9 years old, when I missed the All-Star baseball team, 9-10 team. And so, getting cut, being out there in Arizona, obviously that was my desert. Like Jesus had his desert. That was my desert out there by myself, and kind of made up my mind pretty quick that I was done playing football and I was going to jump right into coaching.
Yeah, I had Bobby Scipio on when I was down at the Coach of the Year clinic the first year, and he was talking about playing arena ball, and
fun game now.
Yeah, he played for a while, and he said he loved it and everything. He said, but he got to a point where he was like, I got my chance. It didn't go like I wanted in the league or whatever, and arena ball was kind of fun and everything, but he was like you. He said, you just get to a point where you're like, all right, I got it. And he came from his parents were educators too, so he was like, all right, it's time for me to, not grow up, but you know what I mean? It's time to get a career, go give back and do something else. So what was your first?
You got to know at some point it's over.
Yeah. What was your first teaching and coaching position out of college and arena ball
coaching,
when you finished?
Coaching, arena ball, it's weird season, right? They play in the summer, always done by August. So my first year of just actual coaching was at my alma mater for Coach John Moranto in 2009. And I always tell kids, like, I was Coach Moranto's starting middle linebacker, state champion, captain for him, all that stuff. When I first got back, Coach Moranto stuck my young butt, who thought he knew a lot, right in the equipment room. I was the equipment room. I ran the equipment room. I was the JVD coordinator, assistant linebacker coach, and I had to help two old guys who were in charge of special teams. So I worked all day, every day, doing stuff. And anybody that knows football knows that equipment room is where you cut your teeth, be it, just having to deal with all that because you got your spoiled starters who want everything perfect, who leave stuff as you tell them to leave it, who lose stuff. So I had to start them there back in 2009. First teaching and coaching job. Mark Beach, I got engaged with my wife. I needed to make some money, become a teacher, and make some money, right? But
well, you got to eat.
Mark Beach, right? I got to eat, exactly. Mark Beach was actually now the head coach at Lambert High School. He gave me my first teaching and coaching job at Seabreeze High School, which happened to be our rival. And so I went and coached with him for 2 years in 2010, 2011. He gave me the special teams coordinator job, and I coached the DBs. And so I tell you all the time, Coach Beach he's still my mentor. I can still call on him anytime. One of the best guys I've ever met in this business. And he's a true family member to me. And I'm always thankful to him for truly giving me my start.
Well, it's funny that you talked about starting in the equipment room because now that I'm old dude, I'm in charge of the equipment room, and
oh boy,
it's easy when you're old because like we're fitting them for their pads for OTAs, and I'm like, all right, put these on. The ones that couldn't identify their pads from last year because it had their back plate on it or whatever. The other kids, I'm putting them on, making sure they're fit like they're supposed to. And I'm like, all right, looks good. Get out. It's just like, because when you're old, you're like, we're not sitting here having a discussion. It's like, that's good.
I don't have time for this.
Yeah, I like that blue pair over there. Shut up, get out. It's
Get
like,
out.
And then today I'm at the OTA and I've got like 2 pockets just slammed full of, you guessed it, mouthpieces. And by the time we left, I didn't have it. Coach, you got a mouthpiece? Yeah, baby, here you go. Coach, you got a mouthpiece? Yep, here you go. And I got a bag full of them over there, but I just kept them in my pockets. And I'm like, here you go, here you go, and here you go. Because I know, that's what happens. And then it's like in the equipment, and in the equipment room, one at a time. Y'all ain't piling up in here acting crazy now. I can't deal with one of y'all at a time. And, you got to kind of learn to lay down the law in there with them jokers. Because if you don't, it turns into absolute chaos in the equipment room.
Oh man, listen, it's the worst place ever. And every time I got older in my career, I always gravitated towards it because once you do it, you know how it should look. And if you watch somebody else do it, it kind of aggravates you. And that's why I always say I'm the knee pad like Nazi. For lack of a better term, because I cannot stand when they lose knee pads. Like they lose them, somebody's just like, dude, we gave everybody a pair of knee pads. We know you've had them all spring, all fall camp, and now we get to the game, and everybody's like, Coach, I don't have any knee pads. Coach, you got a mouthpiece? What happened to the $4 mouthpiece you had? Like, where's that one at? So it was definitely a humbling experience for me, for sure.
Yeah, but if you can organize a equipment room, and if you can run the equipment room the right way, and like you obviously learned how to do it, if you can do that, that is definitely the cornerstone and foundation to future success as a head coach. So after your 2 years at Seabreeze, what did you do after that?
So 2 years at Seabreeze, Coach Scott Wilson, he ended up becoming the head coach at Mainland, and he offered me the co-DC job with my actual high school coordinator, who was kind of getting older and had kids in the house. So he was trying to kind of give up some responsibility. So Scott brought me back home to Mainland, and then I was the D coordinator there with Scott from 12 to 16. We had some great years there. Got all the way up to number, I want to say like 9 or 13 in the country at one point in one of those years. Went to the 4th round. We had a rough go at it. Go back to the 11th season before I got back. 2011, lost to Miami Central in the 4th round. 2013, lost to Naples in the 3rd round. 2012, lost to Naples in the 3rd round. 2013, Miami Central in the 4th round. 2015, Miami Central in the 2014, Central in the 4th round. 15, Miami Central in the 3rd round. And 2016, Miami Carroll City in the 3rd round. So We lost to Miami 3 times in 4 years in the fourth round of the playoffs. So there's some great things there. Had some great football players. It was not some big schools and schools all throughout all the levels. But it was blessed to be his D coordinator there and kind of cut my teeth in some decision making, as I put that in air quotes, because everybody wants the responsibility to be a coordinator, not realizing how much time and effort goes into that spot. So I was his coordinator for 4 years, 4 seasons at Maryland.
And then what happened after that?
So after that, a job about 20 miles up the road, right up the highway, Flagler Palm Coast High School came open. And I had a goal. Coach Moran told my old coach, Travis, you need to be a head coach by the time you're 30. That's the goal you got to set. He had told me that a few years prior. And I set the goal. And they got rid of their coach in like October of 16. And, I got contacted about it kind of before our season was over. And I got a thing about never, ever looking at another job before my season's over. And so once our season was finished, I reached back out. Job was still open. And I took the Flagler Palm Coast head coach job in 2016 in December. And was there for 17, 18, 20, for 4 seasons. I was there as the head coach. And all 4 years went to the playoffs. Never won a playoff game, but we achieved the 4 years in a row, first time in school history, going to the playoffs 8 years in a row. And then in that first season, we had the first undefeated regular season in school history. But like I said, couldn't win a playoff game. Had really bad luck with some turnovers. Like year 1, we turned it over twice for touchdowns. I'll never forget the kid's name. His name is Jay Swagheimer, played at Boone High School in Orlando. He picked off a bubble screen with one hand, went for 70, and then he had a strip sack that he scooped and scored and went for 60. I always say he had 2 touches for 130 and 2 touchdowns. I'll never forget that kid, ever. He had the greatest game ever. 2 touches, 130. Like that's a fantasy football stat line.
See that kid in your freaking nightmares.
That shit was so bad. And you've been O-line coach and appreciate this. I watched film all week. They had 2 kids at the end. Both were 6'4", 6'5", and we said all week, pass pro. We got to get their hands down, pat balls down. So we're not giving ground to the pass pro this week. We're going to go right at them. If they jump, you got to push them on the ground. All the different things you teach. Coach, we try to throw the bubble. Our tackle kicks steps back. Kid just sticks the big paw out there, one hands it, goes and scores. We talked about it all week long. In the game, brain fart, touchdown. So that wasn't fun. Then the following year, our grand prize was in 2018. We had to play against Winter Park, talent. And then 19, we played against Mr. Jalen Carter from Apopka High School. And he looked just how he looks right now in the NFL, where he can't be blocked. He looked the exact same way when he was 17, 18 years old at Apopka High School. So we played some really good football teams over the course of those years, but, had some really good players at FPC, signed a bunch of kids to different colleges. One of the kids I'm most proud of is the kid we sent 2 to the Merchant Marine Academy. Had no idea that was a branch of our government that arrived with the Coast Guard. So proud of that, those guys going there. And those great times at FPC. That's where the family moniker started for me, to forget about me, I love you. That was started at that school. That was kind of our rallying cry. And then after the COVID season, Coach Wilson stepped down at Maryland, and I was offered a job and had to make a really, really hard decision. I loved FPC. I was an 11-month employee. That's rare in Florida. So, that was, having to decide, do I let go of, financial security for my family and take a pay cut to go back home to Maryland. As I always said, the running joke was, I got a lot of buck pride, but buck pride don't pay no bills. So, it was a tough decision to do, but I realized if I wanted to get to this place, right, be able to, be even an option to be at Camden, to go to a place where we could actually win a title. And I knew at Maryland, that was always possible. And so I accepted the head job at Maryland. And, a lot of people were excited about it. And you assumed, okay, I had been there before. I was gone for 4 years. But you're like, oh, I'm from Daytona. This will be easy. I never moved. I know a lot of these kids. But it was different. First year, we lost one kids to transfer, and 17 of them went and started somewhere else within our 2 county area. And so it was a struggle. You know, we finished that first year 5-5, and I went from being, oh man, he's awesome, to can he really do it? So, you know, we had to kind of get things going, and we got them going in 22 and 23, and ultimately won the title in 23.
So you were able to win a state championship there as a player, and then come back and win one
And the
as the
coach,
head coach.
yep.
That's
We
pretty
played,
awesome.
yep. It was very awesome. You know, we played for the first one in 22. And as I always tell people, you know, as a believer in Jesus, I tell people, like, you know, I think I wasn't ready to win it. And I say that because I think God knew I wasn't going to handle it like I should have handled it. I wasn't going to be as humble as I should have been, and as thankful to him as I should have been. So we lost that first one by 2 points. The most pain I think I've ever felt in my life, from a sports perspective, was losing that first one in 22. And it was a long, hard road getting back in 23. And man, when I tell you, it's the best feeling ever. I tell it, you know, when you're a parent, so like, you always want to see your kids and be successful. And so for me, watching those kids have the success ultimately was the best part of the whole thing, of the whole deal. Great, great, great feeling. My teammates that I won it with had about 17, 18 of them were in the building. And it was awesome to be able to share a hug with them over the course of the celebration.
So your first head coaching job, let's back up to that. What,
Yep.
you know, taking your first head coaching job, was that, as we always say, like drinking water out of a fire hose? Was it just like, I mean, the ball don't change, but all the other stuff
Nope.
that you have to deal with,
Yes,
is
sir.
it like, wow, this is different?
Realize, like, we were a coordinator, right? You're one step away from the head coach, but you don't realize how many phone calls you actually pass along to the head coach until you become the head coach. And you realize everything is on your plate. The budget part, you know, fundraising, all the parent stuff, all the player stuff, everything falls on you. And so it was definitely a whirlwind. You know, again, Coach Wilson gave me a lot of ability as his coordinator to do a lot of things. So I was ready for some of it, but it's still different when the phone rings. You have to be the one to answer and make the decisions. I think that part of it was, you know, kind of different. Honestly, the hardest part was taking over and going from a place at Mainland where kids expected to win all the time, and going to, you know, FPC where they hadn't really won a bunch. And, you know, the 2 years before I got there, they had won a combined 6 games. So it was trying to change the mindset of losing is okay. You know, it was the first time they lost to the rival school, which had only been around for like 12 years. They lost to them back to back. So it was a lot of losing culture and mindset we had to fix, and kind of trying to, you know, realize, as much as I want to bring the Mainland mentality to the program, I had to kind of also understand that I had to take time to create that environment.
Yeah, and there's just some things you can only experience through experience. You know,
Oh, absolutely.
you only
Yes,
learn
sir.
by doing, and you just have to do it. I mean, other coaches, we can tell people till they're blue in the face that this is the way it's going to be, and this is how it works, and this is what you have to do. But there's a lot of things about sitting in that big chair that you can only, I mean, there's only one way to get it, and that's to actually do it.
That's the only way you can. It's, you know, experience is one of the best teachers there is, and you know that I would have not been ready for either of the jobs that uh, succeeded FPC had I not gone there. I think I learned a lot at FPC that prepared me for Mainland, that ultimately prepared me for here. You know, just handling, you know, we had more supplements to pay coaches at FPC than we had at Mainland. So that part taught me some things of how to wheel and deal, and get some things into the program. And I even think, you know, going to FPC where there was no winning culture, we had to go create that. And then we were so young at Mainland that we had to almost, even though it's a successful program over the course of 25, 30 years, we still had to kind of create a winning culture, which is where we came up with the Buck Way at Mainland while I was there for those 3 years, because we had to create that to get the environment and the culture that we wanted.
So now you parlay the Mainland job into one of the most successful and traditionally rich programs in South Georgia at Camden County. And how did all
Right.
that shake out?
Oh man, it was crazy. So here's the funniest part about that story is that I applied for the job, right? And so I used my personal email, and so we had one state, coming off a great year. We had put a bunch of kids in school. We had two players in the top 100, for 247 Sports. So I'm like, I'll probably have a shot. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think I'll get a shot. And so, applied for the job, and I knew another guy that applied, and he told me that he had got an email back to get an interview. And I was like, man, I didn't get an interview. I didn't get an email back, bro. I was like, I don't think I'm getting a shot. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, man. I was like, I don't know. I was like, check my email. He's like, man, make sure your email is like, it's not, your inbox isn't full. So I go and delete a bunch of stuff, right? And I'm thinking, well, not gonna happen. So I delete a whole bunch of stuff, and the next day, the email had been sitting there. And so honestly, had I not had another guy that I knew that applied for the job, I would have never had the conversation with him, and I might have never, ever, 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 ever knew that I got the email back to apply for the job and set up my interview, because that's how the process works. Was they sent you the email back stating that you were selected, and they needed you to fill out, go select a time for an interview. So it's definitely a weird space of doing it, and then just kind of going through the process. I mean, like, about the process, and you kind of weren't sure because it was 10 finalists, the time limit on all the interviews, so just weren't sure what it was going to be. If a guy was already chosen, you just didn't know, and it was a lot, and so it was a heck of a process, and it turned out in my favor. I thought I did a good job. Thought I was capable of doing it, and like you said, it's one of the most coveted programs in the world. Obviously things have changed in a sense of how football is in the biggest classification, well, in the state in general. But I think Camden is still one of the best jobs there is in this entire country.
Absolutely, facilities are out of this world.
Yep.
Your supplement base is huge. You can have
Yep.
you got 20,000 assistant coaches. It's just
sometimes
a lot
too
different.
many.
Yeah, it's just a lot different probably from what and I don't mean this ugly way. It's just different from what you guys are used to in Florida, because you don't have the same kind of
Sure.
support
Yeah.
that you have, in a place, especially a place like Camden. I mean, they're crazy about it. It's a one school system. You're not fighting with other people. You're not sharing with anybody else. Everything is right there. I mean, it's a one school system, and they roll up the sidewalks on Friday night and they get fired up about Camden County football, and that's got to be very appealing and very different from what you grew up with and are used to.
That's what we've been laughing about. My OCs from Florida, and then we've got like 5 other coaches now. So I think it's about 7 or 8 of us that are from Florida that came up from coaching in Florida, and we all laugh. We tell our guys up here, we're like, you guys have no idea. These have been the easiest summers we've had, because in Florida you're having to worry every other day about if a kid's going to transfer out because of the legislation of school choice. And we're like, dude, it's so refreshing to just not be in the rat race of constantly having to recruit your own roster to make sure a kid's happy. You know what I mean? Like, you check in with them to make sure they're happy still, but it's like, it's just so refreshing to not be worried about, okay, if we go to this 7-on-7 or we go to this OTA and we don't perform well, or he don't get the ball enough, he's going to be gone on Monday. That's a huge thing. And then, like you say, for the place to shut down on Fridays and to get the crowds we get, it's all I've ever wanted. I'm a high school football, I love it. So it's high school football is the best, it's the greatest level of football in the world to me. And so to be in a town like this where no matter who we play, we're going to have 8,000-9,000 people, it's the greatest blessing ever. And I don't take it lightly that I'm in this environment right now. And so it's awesome to have, to be able to be in a place where they value football like this.
We'll talk a little bit about your moniker, the family.
Yeah, so my OC when I was at Flagler Palm Coast, he's my college quarterback, Matt Johnson. I know a lot of people use it, but it's something that we've stuck with since 2017. He mentioned to me that, Trav, I hear you talk about family all the time, and he said one of the sayings I've heard, with family was "forget about me, I love you," and all it simply means is that no matter who it is in the program, we have to have an attitude about it's not about me. Forget about me. Forget about how good I may be. Forget about you know the paper having the head coach's name in it. It's about I love you. It's about the teammate next to you. We want to be so successful so that the guy next to me can be great. Like I know in today's world, kids are taught to be so selfish, right? Get you, get you, get you. And it's like, my teammate can actually receive his blessings with me. We will be better. And so we try to walk that walk in all assets of life. Like you said before we started recording this, you talked about like coaches being willing to take kids home. Like those are the things that we have to do to be selfless to kind of create the environment. Because we all know, man, like when you get to certain levels of football or certain playoff games, the talent's the same. I always say the thing that separates teams is how hard the kids are going to play for their coaches. Because if they love their coaches, they're going to play hard. And, I feel like when you watch Grayson play, it looked like those kids played really hard for their coaching staff. They can tell the relationship is there. Shoot, playing Colbert last year, you could tell those kids loved Coach Calhoun in the way they played hard. Even when we went up and had a 97-yard interception return, like they were unfazed, and the coaches were unfazed. You could tell they were all on the same page. And I think that's what you want to see. That's why I always say my greatest trait is that I can get my kids that I coach to play really hard for me. And so that's kind of why we use the family moniker is to be able to create that loving environment, because love, as the good book says, love can conquer all. And I think that's a piece for us as a one county school that doesn't have a bunch of transient in and out type of thing. We have to all be on the same page and love each other to get the best product we can.
Absolutely. So how was the spring this year compared to year one? What were some things that you tweaked or did a little bit differently, or did you even get to have a spring year one?
Yeah, well, man, you know what? I told the kids today, this goes all the way back to January. You know what I mean? Like, we were able to have a real off season. Losing in the first round, it gave us opportunity to everybody catch their breath for kind of the remainder of November. Come back, get like a 3 weeks worth of lifting in December, and then we came back in January. We were able to hit the ground running with everything already in place. When I got here last year, I got announced February 28th. People had done 2 months, 4 ones already, and we were trying to get a staff together. We didn't have a full staff until we didn't have a full staff until second week of April, third week of April, maybe, like my coordinator and stuff. So like we were able to have a full entire off season. And so the base of our stack defense, our offense, all those rules we were able to teach, we were able to get, have done. And today at OTAs, it showed that we know what we're doing and where to go, where to be, when to be there, how to get there. And so I think that's been the best part for us is that, this spring, this year, we were able to kind of hit the reset button and truly be able to learn what we're doing. Because when you went from wing tee to, our spread RPO stuff, and then from 3-4 to stat, even though there's some similarities, it's still different, right? It's stack defense, 3-4 defense is 3-4 defense. And so that was where we were able to just have a real, true, full off season. And I feel like today, and even throughout 707 this month, it showed up for us.
So how does the outlook on this coming season look for you guys? I know it's going up. You've made the first round of the playoffs last year.
Yep.
It's only going to get better this second year with everything in place. And despite how tough the region is, that doesn't matter. You're Camden County.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff doesn't really matter to you guys. It's just business as usual, and embrace the challenge and let's go.
Yeah, we're excited about it. I think that we're probably going to start 4 juniors and 1 senior on the offensive line. You could almost argue that 2 of our juniors that are starting this year could have started last year as sophomores on the O-line. So, they've been chomping at the bit to get their opportunity. We bring back Sean Green at wideout. He's blown up this offseason. We've got a kid that was hurt last year, Tyler Maple, that's going to do well. David Coleman, our all-everything corner, is going to play a ton of offense this year. We've got 2 running backs back from last year. We're excited about it. I think on defense, again, same thing. We played some seniors up front of the line, but two of our sophomores that they split time with last year. I think both those guys are ready to go on the D line. They had a really good camp. All the coaches of the teams we played today were very excited about what both those two kids did. Xavier Brown's committed to Georgia State just 2 days ago, I think, and we've got all the linebackers back, and then we've got two DBs back. But we've got some young guys that are ready to step up, and young guys that because of the offseason they were able to have it ready to go. So we're excited about it. I think that our region, like last year, is wide open. I think that anybody in our region can be the region champ, and anybody could end up being out. I think everybody's going to come to play every single week. And as I say, Cole was the champ until they're beaten. You got to be the man. You got to beat the man. Ric Flair always said so. Yes, I'm a wrestling fan. If you couldn't tell right there, but I think we're excited about our opportunity. But as our Whitman coach Matt Mays says all the time, what do you got today? And all we're worried about right now. Today was our OTA day, and we got out healthy and played really well.
Well, I know as just coming out of Florida, 2 years ago, you've already alluded to this, spoken to this already, and you don't have to deal with as much in Camden as places in like metro areas like Atlanta and Macon and Columbus and places like that. But it kind of serves as a warning of what you guys had to deal with in Florida with open borders.
Yes,
and
sir.
open. It's like we call it the Wild Wild West down there.
That's exactly what it is.
It's like offering a word of warning to don't let it get out of hand, because once you let it open Pandora's box, it's a problem with the recruiting and the going wherever they want to go, and it's a mess.
Yep, I've had a couple coaches ask me, my thoughts on, opening on school choice, because that, again, like I said, it's legislation in Florida, so that's where that will never change unless they create something new. And so I tell them, like, people think they want that. I said, you think like the metro teams are dominating now? If they have open enrollment, they'll never lose, because their talent pool and what they're able to pull from a South Georgia or even Middle Georgia school, you don't have the population isn't big enough for you to create those super teams that it takes sometimes now to win a title. And so I said, Georgia right now is still in a great place where transfer still has to be done the right way, because if you just go and say we're going to have school choice, and again, I was a benefactor of it in Florida, in Daytona, because of the school I was at. Malin gets kids that want to be there because I put air quotes, they think that, they're going to be the next LJ McCray or Zay Mincy or whatever, and that helps you out because they have the unrealistic expectation that, they're going to be that next guy. Well, LJ's 6'6", Xavier's 6'3" at the corner. So that's where those guys are big time like that. So, it's definitely a slippery slope, with school choice. I get it, but at the same time, it does become a thing where it creates a competitive disadvantage for a lot of places. I mean, you have schools that are 6A schools that only have 40 kids in the program. That shouldn't be. But because their best players, kids have transferred out, it's tough.
Yeah, it's definitely something that if anybody has any experience with it, it's the Florida guys. And I learned a lot about that. And not only that, but the gross lack of compensation for your time and your pay that you get in Florida is just, it's just, I would say it, as the guy running the hospitality suite down there, I'm like, I don't know how you guys eat, because head coaches wouldn't make, not Camden. I'm talking about a normal place in Georgia, just a regular single A JV supplement to be the head football coach at a 5A school in Florida. And I don't think most guys understand that in Georgia. They're like, no, man. And I'm like, no, man, they get paid like $3,500 to be the head football coach at a school that wins.
Yes. I told my coaches up here, I said, guys, every one of you varsity assistants, your supplement, like outside of the ninth grade guys, every one of their supplements was as much or more than mine. And they're like, what? I said, yes. I said, the guy at a school that hasn't won a game in 2 or 3 years, but he's a great guy and the principal loves him, he gets the same exact supplement, if not more, because In Volusia County, where I was at, that thing is 0 to 5 years as a head coach. You make the same amount. You don't get a bump until year 5. So there's a coach he's got credit for 8 years. He's making more money than me, and we're beating them 55-0. And we get the same check no matter if I go to the first round or the state championship, and he plays 10 games. I said, people, guys have no idea the blessings that they have in being coaches in this great state of Georgia, because the compensation of the teaching mixed with the coaching, it's not even match. There's no match. There's no match to it. And that's why, so many guys moved up to Georgia and are thankful and thriving, because, dude, it's like, you're going to pay me this to do something I love? Like, heck yeah, I'll give you all I got. Heck yeah, I'll be good and I'll be better. So, that's kind of one of the best parts of it is now, I try to make sure our staff understands, like, man, be thankful that you are here, because you could be across the border and being at a school that's got a lot of phenomenal great things, but you can't take care of your family because of that. I was definitely headed to administration. If Camden wouldn't have worked out, I was done. I was going to go get my master's in ed leadership and become an assistant principal. I was on my way out.
Yeah, I know Rodney Wells had talked about that.
Yep. Coach Wells is a great dude. Talk to him all the time. Dr. Phillips.
Yeah, down at DP, he was like, I'm probably headed that way.
It's hard, man. You love it, but it's like your kids, your wife, you owe it to them to
you got to eat.
Do something great. Yep, you got to eat.
You got to eat. And, as the times we're recording this, we're 2 weeks prior to the dead week. And, because this will be released the second week of August. So, you're going to have the dead week. So what are your plans for when you come back from the dead week? What's July look like?
When we come back, we're going to get into our themed days of practice. So, one day is a zone day, another day is a gap scheme day, perimeter day, and then one of my favorites that I came up with is pressure Thursday. That's going to be obviously our offense dealing with blitz stuff. And since we've got 3 weeks of doing it, we're going to, kind of split it up by personnel for each week and go about it that way. So we're kind of, I'm excited about us doing it that way. I think it's going to allow us to make sure our base stuff is all installed and we can see it versus different fronts and make sure our rules are followed. And that way our whole playbook will be in over the course of those 3 weeks. And we'll go into acclimation week and be ready to go.
Well, that's awesome, Coach. I can't wait to see what Camden looks like in year 2 under your direction, how the family looks down there in Camden, and that beautiful navy and baby blue, some of the best color schemes, some of the best baby color schemes and Georgia high school football. And it's been such a pleasure to visit with you and hear your story. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing it with us.
Thank you for having me. We appreciate it. Camden County we're here and haven't been anywhere and ready to go. And we're going to continue to get this ship going back in the right direction, like this great program deserves.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thank you.